trouble is, when you play with the devil, he doesn't play fair. He'll give you everything you want, all the drugs you want, all the women you want, all the promises, and all the power you want. And when he's done with you, he'll kick the legs out from under you.
You already know what it is. It's your boy Laid Back with another reaction, another review, another episode. Hey, TikTok, you up to bat. Bah! It's your boy Laid Back. Welcome back to my channel. Hey, two things we got to do. You got to hit that subscribe button. I'm drinking this water. You already know what it is, man. Think rich in 2026. Think rich in 2026. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Stay up to date with all the videos. I'm just telling you, we getting litty. We getting litty over there on TikTok, man. Make sure you tap in. Make sure you follow Live Trash or Pass. It's a lot going on over there. Yeah, y'all remember Amelie? You know what I'm saying? Y'all remember the lava lamp? I'm just saying. Thought about bringing it back, man. Y'all let me know what y'all think, squad. But listen, man, we back with another conspiracy theory video, man. You make it to the end of this one, you a real one for real. I don't know what to expect, but it's gonna be a lot in here. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Fire Squad, what's popping? Let's get it.
Big Pharma, they own everything. There's a number of past chief editors of journals, and we're not talking just, you know, like some throwaway journals. We're talking New England Journal of Medicine, Lancet, British Medical Journal, okay, some of the biggest journals in the world. Those are top 3 out of the top 4 that I just named. Journal of the American Medical Association is the other one. But chief editors in the last 20 years, at least 6 of them have come out and said that at least 50% of the science that's published is fake. Come on. Read their quotes.
What?
Marcia Angel is one of them that I can remember her name. There's a guy by the name of Richard something or other from the British Medical Journal who said the same thing. I just read an article about it just the other day. I'll send it to you because it just
I'm not surprised. I mean, the depth of corruption is stunning, and the fact that pretty much nothing's been done about it makes you wonder how long this can all last.
50%. Do your own research.
They are now selling you ice cream that doesn't melt. That's not a coincidence, because a lot of ice cream currently on shelves can't legally be called ice cream. The EPA classifies them as frozen dairy desserts. These are the most engineered creams you feed your kids every day. First is Drumstick. It's literally bulked up vegetable fats, structure agents, and a pharmaceutical surfactant that disrupts the gut barrier.
Wow.
But Breyer's crossed the line, as it even failed to melt under heat test, a known effect of gum thickened formulas. But what made matters worst was scanning it with the Safe Choice app. It rated with a PFA risk of 18 contaminants and a lack of real dairy, according to the app. This is unbelievable.
Whoa. Whoa.
The purpose of entertainment is to control minds. The whole purpose of propaganda, which is informational warfare, is to do what? Destroy the consciousness so you never have to go to war with the people. If I can control what you think, I never have to fight you. If I can convince you that standing up to me is the worst thing you could ever do in your life, if I can convince you that I am invincible, you'll never want to fight me. That's why they spend more money on misinformation than they do in the military. And you see how much money they spend on the military. They spend more money on misinformation than they do in the military. And let us be clear about something. You only have about 6 media companies. 95% of everything you see, 95% of everything you read, 95% of everything you hear is either coming to you through Disney, Sony, Time Warner, Bertelsmann, Rupert Murdoch News Group, and I'm leaving one out. 6 companies control 95% of all the media in the world. And you wonder why they control our athletes, they control our celebrities, they control what we think. Whoever controls the information controls the world. And what are the most important aspects of information? It is the images and the sound. The brain is ruled by what it sees and what it hears.
He dropping facts, Brody. 100,000 miles an hour?
Because you can't go out there. They keep talking about going out there. That's like you try and go that far away. That's like taking a starfish from the bottom of the ocean and bringing it up to where we are. Everything expands. The nitrogen expands too much. That animal dies. You take us outside where Mars is, nitrogen has expanded so much more. The hydrogen has expanded so much more that you will never be able to, you won't even have a spaceship or a suit on that's strong enough to keep your body together, and you will never be able to come back to 93 million miles away from the sun, because everything will have expanded, and you will expand to the point of vacuity and explode out. So trying to send a man out to Mars is like trying to send a man to live on Venus. The pressure is too tight near Venus. We will get crushed in a second. It's like being pushed to the bottom of the ocean immediately. You will get crushed immediately. The pressure conditions change as we move from the sun. But science have neglected that because they've said it's a void there. And they don't account for that higher pressure condition, but...
Hey, what is going on? He's talking...
The average person who goes to school has no idea why humanity exists. He has no idea concerning a spiritual factor in material existence. He has no general comprehension of the rules of life as these differ from the rules of social and political structure.
That's real.
He does not know where he came from. He does not know why he is here. And he has no idea where he's going. And on this compound ignorance, we offer degrees and make brilliant scholars out of people who have never answered any of those questions. It is one of these amazing things that we have created a great hierarchy of well-lettered ignorance. We have made everything subservient not to wisdom, but to the passing advantages of the hour. We're in exactly this position politically today.
Bruh. Fire emojis.
I want you to think about this. Something with the capabilities of traveling light years, not showing a heat signature, and the energy capabilities of that would put the Pentagon out of business. We wouldn't be fighting these worthless wars overseas over oil, and American boys and girls wouldn't be dying. It would put the war pigs out of business, and they'd have to go somewhere else, and I'm all for that. I'm all for that. I think what's going to happen now, the floodgates, other people are going to say, you know, I've got some information. I'd like to come swear in. I've seen enough, and I would hope that you all would get that opportunity to see what we've seen.
This is crazy today.
Did you know that if a policeman gives you a ticket, cop pulls you over and gives you a ticket, that is called a ticket in commerce. And so if you go to buy something and you don't have the money and it's too expensive, you ask me to co-sign for you. Now if I co-sign for you to buy something and I co-sign on the ticket, that means if you don't pay it, I have to, right? Therefore, when the cop gives you a ticket, he signs it first. It's called a ticket in commerce because money is going to change hands. Therefore, when you sign it, you are the co-signer of the ticket in commerce. Well, as a co-signer, you don't have to pay the ticket. You were just a co-signer, and you can decide, I don't think I want to pay that ticket. And then you send the ticket and the paperwork to the Secretary of State, and they then give it to the Attorney General. The Attorney General then sends it back to the cop, and the cop has to pay the ticket because he's the one that signed it first. You were just a co-signer. But as long as you don't understand this, people don't understand the way banks and commerce works.
And government.
And religion, and it's all one big show. And if you're not licensed to play in the show, like George Carlin used to say, it's a big club and you ain't in it.
This is so good, just listen.
Best way to gain control.
Y'all gotta let me know. Is that true in the comments? Somebody do their research and let me know about that. That's wild.
Of the most intelligent, powerful species on the planet would be to completely divide them from the love within themselves. As soon as they are old enough to begin creating an understanding of who they are, force them into a system that teaches them that it is wrong to be yourself if yourself is different from what is accepted as normal. Confuse them about their own biological makeup so that they think that permanently altering their body is the answer to happiness. Require their daily attendance at an institution that makes them focus only on the information that is provided. Make them attend that institution from age 5 until an adult and repeatedly test them on the information so that it becomes their truth. Give them an explanation to everything so that they never have a chance to make their own assumptions of the world. Scold them and humiliate them if they suggest an opinion that opposes that of their authorities. Keep reminding them of how cruel their ancestors were to each other in the past and broadcast how cruel they are to each other in the present. Only show them tragedies on the news so that they live in fear and think the worst of one another. Convince them that their species used to be that of an incognizant wild animal. Make them think that their very existence is so incredibly random that they lack purpose and struggle to make sense of a creator. Tell them that their kind is as smart as they've ever been so that they don't question the integrity of the system that they're in. Provide them idols with artificial beauty and use them as examples of what it is to look perfect so that they are never content with their own appearance and can't help but to compare themselves amongst each other. Create addictive digital platforms that rank them by numbers so that they base their self-worth off of the amount of followers that they have and are never satisfied. Build a society around them in which those who have money benefit and those who don't fail. Make money their main focus, but make it so difficult to accumulate that they remain in a place of constant struggle, forced to dedicate the majority of their time to the system that made it this way. Tax them in every way possible, but tell them that it's for their own benefit so that they don't think twice about paying it. Take so much of their time and energy throughout the week, but give them 2 days to themselves so that they feel a sense of reward and don't fight back. Promote the consumption of poison in every social setting so that even on those 2 days, they remain disconnected from themselves and each other. Pump their food with excess sugars and addictive chemicals, but make it cheap, advertised, and easily accessible so that they never stop consuming. When their food makes them ill, prescribe them medication that
only mask the symptoms. I have no idea where she read this from, but doesn't it sound familiar to you?
Yes.
Listen to the beginning again.
That was crazy.
Well, George, you're fascinated with language. Why?
Because language is how they hide things, Larry.
Hide what?
Reality. Nobody lies anymore. They rename it.
Example.
It's not spying, it's surveillance. It's not propaganda, it's messaging. It's not censorship, it's moderation.
That concerns you?
No, what concerns me is people believe it.
Yo, this is crazy today, bro.
This is gonna be the most legitimate hip-hop conspiracy theory you've ever heard. Like, not even a reach either. I think there's solid evidence to back this, and I might explain why. So the story goes, back in 2012, an anonymous letter was posted on this hip-hop blog site called Hip Hop Is Red. The letter was from a supposed high-ranking music executive in the early 90s. In the letter, he was detailing the meeting that he was invited to, along with a couple other music insiders at the time. Homie goes, enters the meeting, sees some familiar faces, and he also sees a couple of unfamiliar faces in black suits. Dudes in the black suits had bodyguards with them, and they all had burners on deck. So he already got the inclination, this isn't your typical type of meeting. Now he goes on to say in the letter, and I'm gonna leave my face a little small in case you want to actually read what he wrote, that the men in the black suits were representing companies they had worked for, and these companies had invested a lot of money into privately owned prisons. And the government was funding these privately owned prisons based off of how many inmates were actually in them. Now the reason why the heads of these companies called the meeting with these music executives is because they wanted a particular genre of music to go in a certain direction. A more violent, a more destructive, and a more crime-celebrated type of movement. And of course, that genre of music was rap. The logic behind that was to get rap music to influence the youth in order to incite more criminal behavior. And the criminal behavior leading to more arrests, which leads to more inmates, which leads to more dollars being filled in their pockets. Fucking crazy. How plausible is this letter and how valid could it actually be? I think one area you could look at is the trajectory hip-hop started going after the early 90s. It starts to move away from the KRS-Ones, the Public Enemies, and the music that had a lot more socially conscious content. And it's not to say that there wasn't street music already being heard by the masses even before the date that he's talking about here, which is 1991. If you want to look at it a little more critically, maybe they were looking at the NWAs and the Ice-T's and kind of used it as a proof of concept. They saw how much influence and impact they had on the younger audience and thought they might be able to capitalize off of it. And unless you're choosing to live under a veil of ignorance, it's very much proven how much music can affect a person's mind. Scientifically speaking, it's proven that music can alter the cerebral cortex. And when affected enough, it can even influence an action. And that influence can even get heightened when it's related to a person's environment. To my knowledge, none of this has been debunked either, so unless I'm missing something, let me know in the comments. But if this is true, this shit is fucking wicked.
If it's true, do your own research.
You've probably heard about these satellites from the National Reconnaissance Office that are constantly recording the surface of the Earth where everybody is and have enough resolution that they could actually read the fine print on your driver's license if you were just holding it in your hand.
Good grief, that was in the 1960s, sir. You know what we can do now? We can see what's inside the walls. We can see what kind of termite is eating inside your wall. And that's public information. So yeah, these things have been around for a while. And, you know, you can go pretty much anywhere on the planet in 40 minutes with these satellites. and get HD 4K pictures of anyone, regardless if there's cloud coverage.
Bro, the technology is crazy now.
Another way of putting it would be, are you convinced that the U.S. government is totally transparent about energy?
No, I think they're totally opaque about energy.
Really? Tell me.
Oh, yes. I think the U.S. government probably has unlocked 0 point or close to 0 point energy, which would be pulling energy out of the vacuum. We have inventors that have done that over and over and over.
And making energy out of apparently nothing.
Well, we could start with, there's a man named Charles Pogue, who in the 30s tinkered with his carburetor and was able to get 200 miles a gallon. It was proven. Engineers investigated, scientists, it's totally proven. It worked. He was going to be a zillionaire or whatever. He's going to transform society. And the problem was, once the news of his engine got out, the oil stocks crashed. They just crashed. So the oil industry lobbied the U.S. government, we have to do something about this. And in 1951, the Inventions Secrecy Act was passed. So now, if you patent any device that is more than 20% efficient, that's instantly classified. That is now a state secret. It's vital to national security. You can't talk about it. You can't build it. And you can't sell it unless you sell it to the U.S. military. You cannot do it. That went on for a while. And then there was a man named Tom Ogle. And Tom is this is the 70s now. He accidentally rewires his lawnmower engine to take the exhaust and pump it back into the carburetor. And this thing runs on a gallon of gas for 78 hours or something like that. So he can reconfigures his car. It's like a 1976 Ford Galaxy, like a boat. And he's getting 200 miles to the gallon on the thing. He's offered $1 billion from an oil-producing country. Shell Oil offers him $25 million for the patent that he considers, but they're going to shelve it. So he says no. It's considered, maybe one of the biggest inventions of the century. Suddenly, Tom, without a history of drug use, stumbles out of a bar. He's drunk and he's killed. And that's the end of Tom Ogle's story. And that all disappears. All that research goes away. And this repeats over and over and over again till we get to Stanley Meyer. And you might remember Stanley Meyer and the water car, because this is the 1990s now. So now we have a vehicle that we're not even talking about fossil fuels and protecting a multi-trillion-dollar industry. We've got a car that runs on water using electrolysis, which has been around since the 1700s. But electrolysis requires a lot of energy and perfect water without impurities. But Stanley's figured out how to take tap water, put it into his car, and run his car on water. And what it does is splits the water into hydrogen, oxygen, runs on hydrogen. Hydrogen is a fuel, it works. And it works, and he drives it all over the place. It's all over the news. Engineers look at it. They say, this is the invention of the century. This changes everything. He's offered $1 billion and millions of dollars, and everyone wants his engine. And he's sitting at a Cracker Barrel with his brother and some investors, and they raise a glass to toast the new investment and go into the future. And they take their toast. And Stanley suddenly doesn't feel well. He runs outside. He starts vomiting. His brother chases after him and says, what's going on? And Stanley says, they poisoned me. And he dies.
I remember.
And in the medical examiner's report, it says he died of an aneurysm. But if you read the report, you can tell the medical examiner didn't really like that, because he wrote some other stuff like, he said he was poisoned, but toxicology doesn't really show it. But it says he died of an aneurysm. And that technology is now gone. The patent's useless because Stanley faked the numbers because he didn't trust the government, because he had another invention that most people don't know about before his water car, which was this toroid ring. A toroid is a donut. This donut-shaped ring that he invented that created energy out of nothing and levitated. But he patented it. It got hit with the Secrecy Act, and they made his life miserable. But people started to learn about that. And that brings us, there are other inventors in between Tom and T. Townsend Brown invents this anti-gravity technology. He runs into all kinds of bad luck. All these men have their research stolen. They're broken into. They're carrying guns. They're threatened. They're disappearing. It happens over and over and over again. I have an episode on this. It's very sad. And we get to Floyd Sparky Sweet. He's my favorite because his inventions, he videotaped all of his stuff. And you see him in his workshop. And Sparky, he's an engineer. He's a garage tinkerer, but he's an engineer. And this was supervised by a military physicist. Maybe it was a mistake. And you see him running a fan at high RPMs. And then he's got light bulbs, all of this energy, and it's all running off this little box the size of a deck of cards. And he puts in 0.03 milliwatts, and he gets out all the watts you want. It's a device that no matter what you attach to it, it just, whatever the need is, it will give you the energy. This is Sparky Sweet.
Really?
This actually connects to UFO technology. I don't know if we'll go there, but it does connect. So Sparky's got this invention. He gets some help from a military physicist. Gets a visit late one night, 2 men in suits come talk to him, say goodnight. He has a heart attack.
Say goodnight.
Ambulance comes. They grab Sparky. The wife is not allowed in the ambulance. He dies.
Whoa.
Soon after, a couple of black vans pull up. They take all his stuff, all his notes, every piece of equipment, and it just disappears. And that's the last we hear of him.
Bro, this stuff is crazy.
Best knowledge right now what's happening on the planet.
What's happening?
The elite are all about transcendence and living forever and the secrets of the universe, and they want to know all this. Some are good, some are bad, some are a mix. But the good ones don't ever want to organize. The bad ones don't want to organize because they lust after power. Powerful consciousnesses don't want to dominate other people. They want to empower them, so they don't tend to get together until things are really late in the game. Then they come together. Evil's always defeated because good is so much stronger. And we're on this planet, and Einstein's physics showed it, Max Planck's physics showed it, there's at least 12 dimensions. And now that's why all the top scientists and billionaires are coming out saying it's a false hologram. It is. Now, there's like this sub-transmission zone below the third dimension that's just turned over to the most horrible things is what it resonates to. And it's trying to get up into the third dimension.
Wow. That's
just a basic level consciousness to launch into the next levels. And our species is already way up at the 5th, 6th dimension, consciously, our best people. But there's this big war trying to, like, basically destroy humanity because humanity has free will, and there's a decision to which level we want to go to. We have free will, so evil's allowed to come and contend, and not just good. And the elites themselves believe they're racing using human technology to try to take our believes that the first artificial intelligence will be a supercomputer based on the neuron activities of the hive mind of humanity with billions of people wired into it with the Internet of Things.
Wow.
And so all of our thoughts go into it, and we're actually building a computer that has real neurons in real time that's also psychically connected to us, that are organic creatures, so that they will have current prediction powers, future prediction powers, a true crystal ball. But the big secret is, once you have a crystal ball and know the future, you can add stimuli beforehand and make decisions that control the future. And so then it's the end of consciousness and free will for individuals, which is TV. Right. But this is an interdimensional force that wants to influence us to build something that absorbs us and kills us, rather than the divine free will we're given to build something much better that empowers the species. So the species is now making a decision about its entire future.
Where are you getting this from?
That's what it is.
But where are you getting it from?
I know, from looking at all the data, researching it, studying it, watching the enemy. That's the big decision that humanity has now got before us. You get someplace finally in deep research where it's what every culture already said, what everybody already knew, what they're telling you in movies like Prometheus, what the elite admit in the New York Times they believe in, everything there that isn't naturally occurring.
Who is that?
I mean, if you actually read what all the globalists say, they are getting not off-world, but interdimensional communications to then build this system that we see lowers our IQ, makes us live less. All the studies show screen time, all the computers lowering IQs, lowering fertility, lowering our health.
When you're talking about the elites and
Whoa.
Is a social credit score system. If you go to China, they're piloting it a few years ago in Shenzhen. So I lived overseas. If you go to Shenzhen, back in 2017, they already had facial recognition cameras there. So if you jaywalked in Shenzhen, they would immediately detect that and send you a notification, and they would deduct money from your what they call WeChat account. They use two main apps, WeChat and Alipay. So you can actually deduct your money directly from your account. This is 4 years ago, so this is not like some sort of conspiracy theory. It's not something that's going to happen 10 years into the future. This happened pre-corona in China. And so this system in China that exists is extremely advanced. They can detect if it's a man or a woman. They can guess your age. They can detect what kind of car model it is, who the manufacturer is. This is a sort of technology that we see in all these dystopian sort of films and whatever. And people keep putting it off and thinking that this is something that's going to happen later in my kid's lifetime or my grandkids. It's already here. And if this gets implemented anywhere, especially in a Western nation, it's not going away. And they're going to ask if you're gay. They're going to be asking if you ate 3 pizzas this week because it's unhealthy. If you buy certain books in certain countries, your country doesn't like you will lose points in the social credit score system.
Wow.
So this is already the reality of the world in certain places, and we need to be aware of that if you don't want that, or if we...
This one is crazy today.
They don't realize they're inside the matrix. And for most people, they have never been educated. And they don't realize that they're in this trap, in this rat race where they will never be free and they will be forever slaves to the big government. So some people are fine being slaves. They don't mind it. Unfortunately. But I would like to say that most of us don't like it. We like to be free in control of our own decisions. And the sooner we get illustrated by Bitcoin, the better. That's why I just wrote that book, The Bitcoin Enlightenment, with some co-authors. And it explains my deep distrust and how I despise fiat. And how I think fiat is the biggest fraud around, and that the only way to get out of that fraud is through Bitcoin. It makes you responsible. You got to learn to custody your stuff. Because that's another thing. My money is safe. It's in the bank. I'm a banker, I have a bank. I have 22 million customers. And I know all about the risks. People think that they took the money to the bank, put it there, and that they're probably sitting in the vault in the backside of the bank. It's not like that. The money's gone. It's invested in it's been loaned to somebody to buy a house. That's what banks do, That's exactly right. That's exactly. So the banking system is also heavily reliant on the central bank as a lender of last resort. And, because we have the lender of last resort, then banks take on more risk than they should. So there's an excellent book from the 18th century, 1800s, called Lombard Street. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything has been tried, discovered, and it's the same thing, If you extend credit without corresponding savings, if you mismatch investment horizon with the deposit horizon, there's going to be a problem.
He talking that bank talk. He said, I own a bank.
This guy, John Stuart Reed, he does what is called music medicine. No, it's actually pretty cool. His father was a scientist. They were allowed access to the King's Chamber in the Pyramid of Giza.
Wow.
And the big box that's in there. Sarcophagus.
Ooh.
They did was they put the that frequency reader where you play a certain frequency and it makes a pattern.
Yeah.
They're reading the frequencies from the King's Chamber and they put it in the sarcophagus. And what it did was it formed different hieroglyphics.
Weird.
But he said something very strange happened. So years prior to that, he got in a car accident, broke his back, and had to have surgery. And so he lived with chronic back pain. And he said after they did this experiment with the frequencies in the King's Chamber, his back never hurt again.
Oh my gosh.
And so he started studying it from the 80s.
Wow.
And basically what he does, it's called music medicine. They take people with diseases and chronic pain and they play certain frequencies. And he says their blood gets pumped full of more oxygen just from these these frequencies,
Wow.
and it allows the healing process to happen quicker.
Wow, music is very powerful.
Turns out, exposure to screen-type light between the hours of 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. activates a specific circuit in a brain area called the habenula that lowers dopamine and creates a sense of disappointment. So it's pro-depressive.
So every teenager in the world is depressing themselves.
That's right.
Or any adult.
Yeah,
who's,
we all do it.
Who's on their phone after 11, after midnight, 1, 2, whether it be watching a movie, whether it be on an iPad, doesn't matter how close to a screen you are, on your phone.
If you dim it way, way down, you don't get this dopamine.
Or you wear the glasses or the
suppressing effect.
biohacking stuff.
You could do that as well,
But it's
although
still-
it's really the brightness of light, not the color of the light.
So the studies by multiple groups are showing that from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m., if you're on your phone, if you're looking at a TV or an iPad or screen consistently, it's going to make you more depressed.
In theory, yes. In practice, you would have to do that pretty consistently.
Got
So
it.
there's not like one exposure.
It's going to dim dopamine.
That's right. It's going to blunt dopamine.
I don't exist. They're all characters that I played, including Jim Carrey, including Joel Barish, including any of those things. They're all characters. Jim Carrey was a less intentional character, right? Because I thought I was just building something that people would like, but it was a character. I played the guy that was free from concern so that people who watched me would be free from concern. And then at a certain point you go like, okay, well, that's great. People talk about depression all the time. The difference between depression and sadness is just from happenstance, whatever happened or didn't happen for you, or grief or whatever it is. And depression is your body saying, fuck you, I don't want to be this character anymore. I don't want to hold up this avatar that you've created in the world. It's too much for me. So a friend of mine who's a spiritual teacher has a really good take. His take on it is that you should think of the word of depressed as deep rest. Deep rest. Your body needs deep rest from the character that you've been trying to play.
Oh, he be talking, bro. He be talking.
Government's a word made up to control your mind. Politicians are just actors. They're just placed to put a facade. Hey, I'm here to help you. Have they ever helped us? They bring us to war. They constantly point fingers. They constantly criticize. They constantly put down other people. They constantly put in laws. How can you put in law if you're a criminal? How many criminals get away with things because of the word government and government officials? You know what? You guys all overwelcomed your stay. And you've proven that your leadership has not led to love and peace and inspiration. They've overwhelmed their stay, and they've brought nothing but chaos, enslavement, taking your money, sending your child to go fight for something we don't even know. It's just what they told us. I think their time is up, and I think everyone around the world feels it.
He talking spicy, spicy.
Can't believe what the food industry is telling you. Whatever it says on the package, believe the opposite. Because they have an incentive to put wrong stuff on the package. I'm part of numerous lawsuits suing the food industry for deceptive advertising, misbranding, mislabeling. 70% of all of the items in the American grocery store are misbranded or mislabeled. They say no added sugar, but in fact they put in apple puree or raspberry puree or evaporated cane juice. There are 262 names for sugar, and the food industry uses all of them.
262 names for sugar? What?
One is, you've heard of Steve Jobs' reality distortion field. So,
Loosely.
Yeah. So Steve Jobs was known for having this energy that basically made other people around him believe that they could change the world, that they were unstoppable. And so people would talk afterwards after he died about how he'd come into their office and he'd be like, we're going to ship this product in 24 hours. I know we were going to do it in 3 weeks, but we're going to do it in 24 hours. He would get them all riled up, and then they would ship it in 24 hours. And after the 24 hours were done, they would kind of be like, coming out from a blackout. Like, what just happened? How did he talk me into that? That's his reality distortion field, which I think is fascinating because we all actually have that ability. His was really strong, but for nerds, Star Wars nerds like I am out there, it's like the Force, It's if you actually believe that you are capable of something, it's weird what you can accomplish.
Amen.
100% agree with that.
Have you ever heard about study that was done, which basically formed our food pyramid that was paid for by the sugar industry?
Oh, yeah.
Sugar.
Crazy.
Not just that, but they actually bribed scientists to take the heat off of sugar and put it on saturated fat.
Which totally screwed everything up more.
Screwed up a lot of people's bodies, too.
Oh, man.
Because their diets got all fucking confused. They're eating margarine because they think it's good for them.
Yeah. It's insane, man. And the FDA allows these things to go on. Like, it's just mind-boggling to me. It is, no, I mean, I guess it's not, because it's all lobbyists and people being paid off. And
there's a lot of crooks out there.
That's so terrible.
There's a lot of crooks out there, and these people have been co-opted by these enormous corporations. So these people can make decisions that benefit the corporations, and it benefits their career, and then they move on to get jobs in those corporations, and meanwhile everybody else is fucked.
This food industry stuff.
Let's talk about one of my favorite conspiracies. What does a heart medication company, a pesticide, and dandelions all have to do with each other? Well, Bayer makes billions of dollars off of their heart medications. They own Roundup. Roundup is used to destroy dandelions. Dandelions are considered to be one of the most heart-healthy foods in the world. So a lot of conspiracy theorists believe that Bayer owns Roundup so that you'll kill this, so you have to keep buying that. But is it actually true? Aren't dandelions that healthy? Yes, they are incredibly healthy. In fact, they're more nutrient dense than kale or spinach. They are considered to be a superfood, better than a lot of things that you grow in your garden. So why do we kill them? Marketing. We've been taught that they're weeds, and so we think of them as weeds. There's even stories about the Pilgrims bringing dandelions on the Mayflower, where they had limited space, and the only reason why they brought it is because of the natural healing remedies. Scientists are just starting to begin to study the effects of dandelions on our heart health. And the studies do look pretty promising. So is that why Bayer owns Roundup? First and foremost, I will never defend Bayer for anything. People know them for aspirin, but there's another drug that they brought to the market that was available over the counter. You couldn't get aspirin over the counter because of the gastrointestinal issues that it caused, but you could get this. Heroin. Thanks, Bayer. The story of how they brought it to the market is insane. Oh, look, here's a little ad. Susie has a stomach ache or a cough or something. I can't read this. And so mom's giving her heroin. Sweet, thanks, Mom. To be fair, this isn't the first time that Bayer's been in the pesticide business. In fact, during World War II, they were part of a consortium called IG Farben that made pesticides. You want to know where they were used? In Mustache Man's gas chambers. Yep. Thank you, Bayer. So why did they own Roundup? Well, they didn't just purchase Roundup outright. They actually purchased a company called Monsanto, or what a lot of people call Monsatan. Terrible products, lots of cancer, lots of lawsuits. Bayer purchased them as a defensive move, they say. They needed to buy them because there was a lot of consolidation in the market. The funny thing is they spent like $70 billion on Monsatan, and they're spending tens of billions every single year to settle lawsuits. So did they buy this so that we wouldn't have this so that we have to buy that? Maybe. But they are losing billions and billions of dollars due to lawsuits because of products like these. Where do I stand on the conspiracy? I think it's just a little coinky-dink, but I'm happy they're losing money. Love you, bye.
This stuff is really, really weird.
Don't be fooled by the internet. It's cool. It's cool to get on the computer, but don't let the computer get on you. It's cool.
He be talking.
It's cool to use the computer. Don't let the computer use you. You all saw The Matrix. There's a war going on. The battlefield's in the mind. And the prize is the soul. So, just be careful. Very careful. Thank you.
He was talking, yeah.
School was simply set up to program your entire existence. In the past, the history was, hey, you don't want to be stupid. You want to be left behind. You don't want to, what are you, dumb? You're not going to work. How are you going to make money? How are you going to get an education? How are you going to get into college? That was the peer pressure from the system. That is all well designed. And if you really think about it, it's no different than a prison. You show up at a very ugly looking building. You bring your trays along to get your food. You sit in a cafeteria style. You're in a classroom indoors for hours. No child, no human is supposed to live like that, period. So they break down your natural instinct. They break down your ability to go out and create and learn. School is the meanest things you can do to a child and to any society.
Wow, that's a bold takes.
The people involved in the drug companies and the food industry all work together, and many of them own stock in each other's companies. It's a criminal enterprise. They'll have this meeting, and I know because I was in the meetings 30 years ago, and the food industry says we are putting some additives in the foods. But our chemists have discovered that when you add all 3 additives in the foods, a new compound is formed. And now the person's going to have twitching in their legs. And sometimes can take years before it starts developing. So the food companies will say, so what we're going to do is we're going to start putting it in the food, knowing that 7 or 8 or 9 years from now, there's going to be millions of people with this leg issue. So when restless leg syndrome comes out 7 or 8 years from now, you guys, the drug companies, should have a drug approved and ready to go, and you'll make $1 zillion. So they start working on the drug knowing that there's going to be this epidemic down the road.
Yeah.
Those were done. We did it openly.
We did it openly. What?
I got to ask you a question, because you told me that you'd seen an official report explaining why they think aliens would possibly be coming here. And there were, what, 3 reasons?
Yes. This was
Wait, is it the declassified files or the ones that are?
No, this is the truth. This is
yeah. It is in a declassified file, but at the time, because it came from military intelligence and it was a proper assessment. I memean, it was a proper military assessment of UAP or UFOs, whichever phrase you want to use. And so the classification originally was, I think, secret UK eyes only, so only 1 below top secret. Well, this intelligence assessment said, in the apparent absence of any overt hostility from UAP, it seems to us that there are 3 possibilities as to why they are here if we are dealing with extraterrestrial visitation. And it said, number 1, military reconnaissance. Number 2, scientific study. Number 3, tourism.
Aliens coming here to tour? Just to chill, pull up?
Joe Rogan is bigger than every single show at CNN combined and gets paid more than every single person at CNN combined. And he was 100% right about this thing through the entire time.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was.
No, he wasn't.
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on, let me get this point out here.
Tell me what he was right about.
Okay, how about, you know what you just revealed last month on Pat's show about ivermectin?
Yeah.
Joe Rogan was saying that, and you were smearing him for saying that.
Yeah.
You literally said he's taking horse dewormer.
Yes.
He should be ashamed of himself. You
Yes.
pleaded with your audience to not take it.
Yes.
Then you come back around and you go, hey Pat, you know what I just found out? Turns out this thing isn't for animals. Turns out humans are. But Chris,
that's
a
not-
5-minute Google search and you would have known that.
First of all,
how do you not apologize to Joe Rogan?
Listen, the people who make ivermectin disagree with you.
Hold on. What do they disagree with me about?
That the drug should not be taken as a standalone for COVID-19.
I never said it should.
That's what Rogan was saying.
No. He did not. No, listen. See, this is the thing, Chris. That is a lie. That is a blatant lie. Joe Rogan. So you just pretended that I said it's a standalone for COVID. No. Here's what it always was. Here's what Joe Rogan said. My doctor prescribed it to me, along with several other medications, just like your doctor prescribed it to you.
Wow, they was getting spicy with it.
Donald Trump has now said he will release all the classified files on UFOs and aliens. And you posted after that, an enormous secret is buried here. I have failed to guess it year after year. What did you mean by that?
We have a puzzle that I can't solve. There is more accumulated anecdotal, circumstantial, and sporadic evidence of an enormous program about UFOs than I know how to dismiss. I've talked to people who have strikingly similar firsthand accounts of bizarre behavior, either in terms of objects in the skies or the seas, or seeming U.S. government employees with no insignia and no identification behaving in bizarre ways. I can't explain the amount of firsthand claims from non-actors delivered with perfect sincerity that would make Hollywood blush if there isn't a reality behind it. Now, sometimes we get a look at that. For example, there's a private Air Force that seems to come down from the skies and destroy equipment of people observing UFOs that I think turned out to be the CIA's Office of Global Access. I wasn't smart enough to figure out how you could hide an Air Force inside of the United States from a breakaway society, but I think it was just the CIA. So, that was bad for me. I didn't get that right. I think what you're seeing is that there's probably a very long-standing program, particularly involving physics, and particularly involving aerospace companies, not as aerospace as we know it, but as shells in which you can put very sensitive stuff that could be FOIA'd if it was found inside of government. I don't know what's in that structure. I think Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is going to be very important. There's a site in Indiana, several in New Mexico. My guess is that you're going to find out that a lot of these stories, just take New Mexico. New Mexico is going to be the hub that connects atomic weapons, UFOs, and Jeffrey Epstein. And they're all going to merge into one story about power that we don't understand. Human power is going to be centered in a state that we barely ever talk about, and including Bill Richardson at the Department of Energy, which of course is really the custodian of physics and our nuclear weapons that Jimmy Carter converted from the AEC, where atomic energy was the cover story for atomic weapons. So we went from atomic weapons to atomic energy to just energy, and now we sound like Bill Richardson went there to be the head of oil.
Crazy.
A lot of people who claim to be hybrids or full-on aliens. I was at UFOCon in San Francisco, and I met this German woman, this older German woman, very like Bob Monroe, very salt of the earth. I think I asked her, "What do you do? What are you here for?" And she said, "Oh, well," she took a couple beats and said, "I'm a nanny on a spaceship for human hybrid alien babies." You and I both heard a lot of hybrid accounts, but this was very matter-of-fact, workmanlike. And it was this very low-key delivery. But one of the things that jumped out at me was that she said, I have grandchildren here. I've fulfilled my purpose.
You a nanny for alien babies?
It seems like as a whole country, right? We got so far away from basic things that are just really good for us as people.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it has to do with the pharmaceutical industry. I think it has to do with it's a profit-making business. And I also think, and I'll say this, and I'm never critical of doctors, because my father-in-law is a doctor, my two brother-in-laws are doctors, and I have a sister that's a doctor. But there's a tendency among doctors, and I think this is prior generation, I think it's starting to change in this generation, which is when you have a sickness, there needs to be medicine, right? It's sickness medicine. Right. As opposed to, well, how are you eating? Are you sleeping enough? Are you, exercising at all? There's just no sort of holistic approach, in my opinion, oftentimes, to the problem. It's more like, if you're feeling bad, this is the pill that you take, right? To the problem, it's more like, if you're feeling bad, this is the pill that you take, right? Exactly.
I don't think the Pope is the highest individual there at the Vatican.
What makes you think that?
A lot of individuals have studied this very extensively, and I'm somewhat one of them, that believes that even presidents and the Pope are all just puppets. I think that things are changing in a way that they haven't really been before. We haven't had all this technology and all these things, and eventually information is going to get out enough, that 1% we talked about, to shift that collective.
What does that do?
What happens is, imagine humanity is like a singular organism. It's in terms of consciousness. And we have what's called a collective consciousness. It means that we all live in a reality together. Right. And we share ideas. But there's this driving direction of humanity based on the average amount of people that believe in something similar. The average person goes to work and gets up, pays their bills. And I think that whole thing, though, is shifting. I think we should stop comparing to what hasn't happened before. Like, the Vatican Archives hasn't released anything, and they're powerful, and how can they not be that in the future? We need to not measure the future based on only the past.
The trouble is, when you play with the devil, he doesn't play fair. He'll give you everything you want, all the drugs you want, all the women you want, all the promises, and all the power you want. And when he's done with you, he'll kick the legs out from under you. And that's why you hear rock stars sometimes say, I sold my soul to the devil. Because once you make that trade, he'll give you what you want. But people need to understand that the devil is not sharing his kingdom with anyone. And I was studying all this witchcraft. I thought everything was wonderful. The same spirits that gave me power began to turn on me. It was as if all of a sudden the same voices that would say, this man is committing adultery, or this woman steals at work, or this girl's gonna get married last year, when I was reading cards, would now say to me, you should die. I would walk around with a gun in my mouth. I can remember the metal used to burn my tongue. I would just suck on a gun, waiting for the moment to stop this power that I had entered into, to stop the destruction of my mind.
Wow, this is crazy.
One of the first questions they'll ask is, what do you do? And so I say, I live. And they say, no, I mean, do you work or what? And I say, no, I just live. And they say, well, you must do something, because their whole orientation is towards job, occupation. This is their whole life. Money.
One of the reasons I started this in the first place was because my parents were both very neurotic. And I realized this because I went to a psychiatrist for 9 years. And at the later stages of analysis, I realized just how neurotic and ill and in a world of illusion my parents were, and I decided that I was going to be the one in my family to stop it. It was going to stop with my generation, that I refused to pass this on to my children.
We're doing the hardest work in the world because we're growing, we're trying to change, and that's a lot harder than staying in the same rut and going along year after year, doing the same thing.
That is very true. Let me find out I'm a hippie.
Ghislaine develops this fascination with Atlantis. When she was fleeing the authorities after Epstein's murder, she gets this property in an isolated area of New Hampshire under a false name. Janet Marshall. Janet Atlantis Marshall was a feminist author. If she's using the name basically Janet Atlantis to get this property in New Hampshire, and she named Epstein's submarine the Atlantis submarine. The reason that there's an Atlantean temple on Little St. James, it's a temple dedicated to Poseidon. Poseidon was the founding god of Atlantis. And the most interesting thing that they did is they went to Fidel Castro and asked him for permission to dive on a site off the western end of Cuba, where Paulina Zalitsky had discovered an Atlantean city. There are sonar scans of this thing. The story disappeared. The last time that piece of Earth was above water was 50,000 years ago. Ghislaine Maxwell wanted to dive on this sea. She went to Castro with Epstein and asked permission to dive on this site.
This is wild.
Most people don't know this, but oranges were never supposed to be orange. The skin actually has more vitamin C than the fruit. Oranges evolved in the warm tropics of Southeast Asia. In that climate, ripe oranges actually stay green because chlorophyll acts as a natural sunscreen against the constant heat. But in the 15th century, Portuguese traders brought oranges from tropical Asia to cold Mediterranean Europe. When temperatures dropped in the winter, the cold broke down the chlorophyll and revealed the orange pigments underneath. Europeans had never seen a green orange, so they assumed that orange was what ripe looked like. That's why the industry gases orange fields with ethylene to break down the chlorophyll, or dyes them with a chemical called citrus red number 2. The only reason you think an orange-colored orange is normal is because someone took the fruit somewhere cold enough to change its color, which is pretty insane.
Bro, I'm learning a lot right now.
And it was only in the past 5 years when all this evidence would emerge, and I'd be like, well, that's not true. It doesn't seem true to me. Like, I don't know what the truth is, but I can tell when someone's lying. It's my one gift. And I would see these people lying, and I'd be like, why are they lying? Like, I know they're lying, but why? And so I really came to this, like, at the age of 50. Like, that's very late. Like, I never for a second thought UFOs.
What changed your attitude at 50?
The evidence.
Which is what?
Well, oh my gosh. The Pentagon was required by the last defense authorization bill to, like, produce some of their files on UFOs, and it turns out they have known about this since the end of the Second World War, which ended in 1945. Been a huge increase during that war, during the war as well. Huge increase in UFO sightings, in UFO crashes, and it turns out the federal government has been tracking this for 80 years and lying about it. So why? Well, that's a great question, and I can't answer it. I have theories, but I don't know. But here's what I learned. The first question is this real? Or am I just being a crazy person who's spending too much time on the internet? Well, this summer, we got a call. We didn't reach out. This person called us. Lexi, who's standing right there, who's a genius, one of our producers, gets this call from this guy who's a tenured Stanford medical school professor, and he wants to come on the show. Now, this guy has a couple patents, and so he's rich. And he's got tenure at one of the most prestigious schools in the world. So, like, he's not a flake. He comes on and he's like, 11 years ago, the US government reached out to me because I'm an expert on head injuries, on brain injuries, traumatic brain injuries. As a physician, they had all these court cases from families of US servicemen, over 100, who'd been killed by UFOs. The Department of Defense was refusing to give them death benefits or medical benefits. And he's like, so they're in the courts. And I was like, there are over 100 servicemen killed by UFOs?
Whoa.
Like, what? He's like, yeah. And there are court cases about it. I'm like, why isn't this on the front page of the New York Times? I don't know.
Right.
But he goes, I'm involved in it. I'm I'm one of the researchers. I'm the expert witness in these cases. Holy shit. What does that mean? And he's like, for example, UFOs appear to be attracted for whatever reason to nuclear energy.
Yep.
So at nuclear missile bases in the upper Midwest, for example, nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, nuclear-powered submarines are all getting buzzed by these objects, including underwater. And in a number of cases, these things have landed on military bases, including famously in Germany, in West Germany in the 70s. And servicemen have approached them. Like, what is this thing? There's this like giant glowing thing on the base. And they approach and they get traumatic brain injury. Like they are rendered. Like, they get brain damage or they're killed. And he studied their brains. And they have, this is all totally real. This is the Department of Defense, dude. And they've all had this damage from some kind of powerful energy that we cannot identify. So then this guy's like, wow, he's just a scientist. He never believed in UFOs. He's like, this is real. I cannot believe this is real. This is like crazy. He should start to do research on it. He's still at Stanford. And it turns out that actually, yes, these things have been shot down and crashed, and the US government has the wreckage, and it's being held by defense contractors, Raytheon, Lockheed, which are big independent companies, but that work for the US government. They're really part of the Department of Defense, but they're separate. So you can't, their sunshine laws don't apply to them. You can't actually get information from them. It's a very tricky way to hide information. And they have the wreckage from these crafts. And I'm like, really? Are we positive these aren't like advanced Russian or Chinese? No, of course not.
Is it more like the government or whatever is just this good at hiding it, or people just don't care?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. I think it's too big for people to metabolize. Like, if Prince Harry says something stupid, everyone's like, I can't believe Prince Harry. Because, like, that's manageable. You can, like, oh, this douchey fake prince with his stupid wife from Santa Monica. Like, I get that. But the idea that we're not alone in the universe and we're getting buzzed by these objects whose behavior defies physics, like, that just explodes too many categories in my head. I just can't deal with it. And I think that's part of it. But I'll tell you this, the most interesting from my perspective, I don't know if it's a consensus, but a lot of people, serious people, not crazy people who study this stuff, US government employees, seem to believe that these objects are coming from under the oceans. So the conventional view is they're coming in from outer space. There's not actually a lot of, something enters the atmosphere, we can see it on satellite, and there's not any evidence of that actually. Maybe it's happening, but we don't know that it is. There's a lot of evidence these things are coming out of the ocean, including videotape of these objects coming out of the water at high speed, or even more amazing,
going in,
descending at Mach 3 into the water. And then, of course, we have a huge submarine fleet. What the fuck? Then we have a huge submarine fleet, American, but also Chinese and Russian, underwater with pretty sensitive measurement devices, sonar, etc. And they have recorded these objects doing hundreds of knots underwater. So, like, let's just stop there.
Wait, what's knots?
It's 1.1 miles per hour. It's a way that we measure objects in the water. It's 1.1 miles. It's a little more than mile per hour. And a mile is a measurement that we use in the United States. It's distinct from a kilometer, which I think is common in Canada. But anyway, these things are moving at impossibly high speeds. So just like, let's just apply common sense for 1 second. If I take a 45 ACP, a 45 caliber handgun and fire it at you underwater in, say, a swimming pool, 50 feet away, you can catch the bullet because the resistance is so strong from the water that objects can't move that fast underwater. We know that, but they are, and they're moving without any visible means of repulsion. So no wake, no bubbles.
Where have we like tracked that?
All over
speed?
The world.
All right, squad, that was another compilation, man. Listen, that was creepy. Definitely talking about the food, the UAPs, the witchcraft, it was a lot, bro. It was a lot. The patents, it's a lot going on, squad. If you made it this far, you a real one for real. Make sure you put that in the comments, man. Also, if you into this stuff, I got a TikTok playlist you can binge watch, but hey, proceed with caution. Proceed with caution. But till next time, man, self-love and positivity. Fire Squad, I got you when you know it.